1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's fine.
Uno,
Cool.
dos, tres.
Right, so here we go again. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Tactics, Tales, Triumphs, and Traps, session 20, role-playing. This close to Valentine's Day, I think, is a very apt topic as well. Two people that don't need to role-play to pretend that they like me. It's Mr. Nightbeard and Mr. Lugar. Say hi, guys.
Hey, hey. Yeah, I think we're getting a
Hello.
little bit close to, a little bit too close to the Valentine's Day role-playing day phase. Maybe it's a different kind of stream we need for that one.
I'll get the hot tub out.
Oh, so I should put the whip and the lube should go back in the closet.
Well, it's no good if you haven't got yourself on webcam, my friends. If you're just sitting there in leather chaps right now, then it's going to be wasted.
Private pics later, no?
Yeah, well, I guess it can work.
Anyone that donates £100 to this stream will get a sexy picture of Luger in their inbox. Anyway, moving on. So, talking about roleplay, this is a very important part of the D&D world. So, a lot of people find this as one of the more intimidating parts of playing D&D. A lot of people say, "Look, do I have to turn up in full cosplay, wear it like with sword and shield, pretending to be this character, getting into the head?" So I don't think it's necessarily that, but it's the heart of Dungeons and Dragons. Stepping into character can be intimidating. In this episode, we're going to explore how to create compelling character backstories, avoid common mistakes, and improve role-playing skills to make your sessions more immersive and enjoyable. And I think, and I don't know if you guys agree, but when I jump into a character, I really jump into a character. I get right into their head and play them to the best of my ability. So, yeah, what are your views on roleplay? And let's keep it clean, boys.
Oh, great. You knew exactly where I was going with that one, right? Yeah, I quite love roleplay. I think that throughout our previous discussions, whether we were talking about druids or whether we were talking about wizards, I think we kept coming back to roleplay and how there's different roleplay options that each of these subclasses and things do offer. So I'm quite for it, but again, on the other hand, I also feel that if you're getting into D&D and you're not quite sure, in my games, you're more than welcome not to roleplay. That's also an option. So yeah, my view.
Okay, what about you, Mr. Lugia?
Well, I look at it like this, because when you hear the word roleplay, you first go to ooh, naughty. Or you go, ooh, that sounds like intimidating. Like, what am I doing here? I just like to think of it as acting. Who hasn't wanted to be an actor some part of their life, either as a child or a teen or even as an adult? Like, you just want to pretend to be someone else or act cool in a movie. And that's what I think D&D is, for me at least. I just get to act and play something cool. And yeah, I think that's really fun. And you can express yourself in ways that you otherwise wouldn't in your real world. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, I mean,
but you have to work over the barrier at first, because you feel a little silly in the beginning, and you feel maybe a little shy, and you overthink every word or every subtle thing that you're gonna do. Because it feels strange, because you're an adult, like, playing somebody else. But
yeah, you're an adult playing pretend, right? I mean, that's it. You're playing pretend.
Exactly.
And I think that somewhere along the line, as adults, well, most of us are adults, have given up that kind of ability to just play, just pretend to be something or somebody else. And I think that it takes a while to get in touch with that again. I think you're 100% right, Lugo.
Let's face it. I mean, no one. I mean, there's very few. Probably about 3% of people that go to their 9 to 5s really enjoy that. Everyone needs an escape from your job, and I think Dungeons and Dragons gives you not only a chance to think outside the box and use your imagination, but to create create a completely new persona for yourself, just to act out, just to jump into a hero's mind for a day and see how that works and what ticks and what makes them tick. So let's have a look at roleplay. So I suppose the first thing to address is, I mean, a big go-to is the tragic orphan backstory. You know, I'm all alone in the world, or so.
Whatever do you mean?
Loads of people around me died, and now I'm alone. I suppose that for someone that's jumping into the game initially, when you're meeting a group of new people, it's very easy to be that lone traveler, that lone. So you don't have to make all these crazy backstories or people to talk about. You just say, yeah, my parents died in a war against your goblins back in 04. And that way it gives you that rugged sort of, you know, vengeance story, very Batman-esque kind of thing. So, you know, why do so many people default to that, do you reckon? Luger?
Who are you asking?
Luger? Sorry.
I think it's quite simple, at least for me starting out. I was with the role playing before, like I said, you're shy in the beginning and you're afraid that there's going to be tons of things you need to remember, and the game's quite complex for a beginner to learn all the rules. I was terrified to be like, oh, I have a family member who did this, and I came from this place and this place, and then I was like, how the frick am I going to remember all these names, all these people, all these things? What if I just come from nowhere? Like, everybody's dead. Sucks to be me. People will feel pity when they see me. People will naturally start to want to invite me. And I don't know my place in the world, which is great because usually you would have a goal for your character. If I don't know my goal, I could just tag along to whatever the hell everybody everybody wants to do, and not feel like I'm being a burden or taking up too much time or whatever. But you just need to let go of all of those thoughts, because you matter just as much as everybody else at the table. But in the beginning, it is a little intimidating.
That's Luger's final thought there. You matter.
I mean, you do. Not as much as you think, but you do.
Oh, thanks. I'm going to take that. I mean, that's the Valentine's Day gift that I needed to hear. Yes. So
well, that's a long answer for a short thought, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that tragedy adds depth, doesn't it? You know, it's I think it's a good sort of starting point for a lot of people to roleplay, especially if they're feeling a little bit nervous about roleplaying, and they can get into that character a bit broody, a bit sullen, because, you know, they're lonely, and I think that's a good jumping spot for new players that are starting to roleplay to get into. So it's not a bad thing necessarily, but, you know, try not to reuse and rehash that same sort of backstory, because, you know, you could develop a character so much more when there are family involved.
Well, it's the fireball of character.
Oh, Eldritch Blast. Eldritch Blast.
That's it. It's the one that we all go to. It's the one that we've all done. Who doesn't like a good orphan story here and there? But like I think Lugo says, is there's just, the moment you start to flavor it a little bit differently, the moment you start to look at tragedy maybe a little bit different, like you said, I mean, make it like your town just vanished. I mean, it didn't burn down, it just freaking up and vanished, and you were taking a dump out in the woods, and suddenly you came back and your town was gone. I mean, that's a backstory, right? It's also tragic.
Yeah.
You've lost your family, you've lost your siblings, you've lost your everybody. You now left here, but okay, cool. It's the same thing with a little bit of a different spin on, and I think that's where
now you're giving yourself a quest and a goal as well. And
you've suddenly changed it.
Immediately you have something to strive towards, and that's a whole thing in itself. Like, you're good to go.
Yeah, and there we go. So I mean, you can bend it, you can twist it, you can do a whole bunch of different things with it. It doesn't necessarily need to be the quintessential, oh, my parents died, I don't know who they were, I'm a sad orphan story, which there's nothing wrong with, but I mean, there's a bit more that you have options with to play around there.
Agreed. So switching over, what would you say are some fresh alternatives to the tragic backstory? Mine, I don't know if you ever met Eldir, who was he was an elderly wizard who was attacked by his son, which caused him to lose his mind. And he goes through the campaign quite confused. But the way I did it, his arc was as he leveled up, he would start regaining some memories. Always denying the fact that his son had inevitably attacked him to take power, and then he finally starts to realize, the world around him wasn't as calm and peaceful as he once thought. What about yourselves? I mean, what would you say is what are your go-to backstories, guys? We'll start with Nightbeard.
Yeah, I think my first one is what led me to all my whole Nightbeard angle, I guess you want to call it. My very first character was Thorgrim Nightbeard, a rogue, which is one of my favorite ones. But I mean, yeah, he's a rogue. His backstory was that he discovered that his family, who he thought was all these very highly respected dwarf mining, etc., were actually a group of assassins. And he's like, yeah, hell no, I don't want to be an assassin. I want to be kind of a good piece of good in the world. And that's where my thing started. And building from there, all my characters are related somehow. I mean, they're cousins.
Are you meaning to tell me all your unsuccessful pickpocketing techniques with his conscience stopping him from doing bad things, or is it just your bad rolls?
But if you're saying they're all related, are they all the same species as well?
No, because I mean, you don't need to be the same species to be related, right? I mean, you can be a cousin.
I'm just curious how you work this.
The way I like to do it is, so there's Thorgrim. I try to take the most stupid, ridiculous thing that is almost contraindicated. I mean, it's like it doesn't make sense. A barbarian gnome, as for example with Tybalt. Okay, so Tybalt, I took the name from Romeo and Juliet, being the guy that kills Mercutio, this very aggressive guy. That's where I got the name from. And his backstory is he's this young guy, and somebody stole his favorite bunny. I mean, that's it. That's his backstory, and he's on a mission to retrieve his bunny's head. And
ask every single NPC if they'd seen a bunny's head, much to the confusion.
And then
I mean,
and then
if you lost your pet, you do anything to get it back. So
right. And I mean, it's a change on fine. I'm looking for my mother. I'm looking for my father. It's that kind of thing. And then where the role play on that comes in is using the character. So he had a perchance, I don't know if you remember and can recall, phase for chopping people off at the knees.
He did, yeah.
And that's because that's what he could reach as a gnome. so there's that. Then there's I've got Clip Nightbeard. I mean, Clip's a freaking 350-pound super dexterous monk who loves food and can just like walk on air. It's just, it doesn't make sense, but it works.
Shameless plug. And also, if you want to get involved in Clippy's Nightbeard's Clippy challenge and clip items from his games, just check the website out. You can get involved in that competition.
Yeah,
that's a nice sort of segue, wasn't it?
Like, not me. Yeah, thanks. I didn't put that in, but yeah, I think so. So the way I like to do it is I always start with something outlandish, something stupid, something that doesn't make sense, that nobody would want to build, and I'll build a character from that. And I think
you're not a mid-maxer at all. You're just like wrecking characters.
So I stopped. I tried. I'm not going to lie. I tried building a min-max character right at the start. And I was like, this is too much work. I don't know which spells to take. I don't know which weapons to... What should I put my... I was just like, screw this. I'm just building something that's fun to play. Yeah. But yeah, that's my take on it all.
Yeah. What about you, Luga? What were your alternatives?
I kind of use a different approach. I am... like my mind's racing all day, every day, just things happening in my head.
I believe this.
Pick up things. Fuck. And you just, I just pick up things that happen in the real world, things in movies and whatnot, and my mind's just going over time. And so there's just stories playing out in my head all the time, and I just kind of like have like a story in my head, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta make this character or whatever. But when I actually make the character itself, how to present it or how it's going to act or be, I always pick one thing that represents me, the real person, me. So that I have
I
some
just want to quickly interject there. So your bard that's very flirty but very unsuccessful. Would your wife say that's a good representation of yourself in real life?
No comment.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's
Happy Valentine's Day. Oh, these roses. Oh, somebody else gave them. Oh no.
Oh, they're just the stalks. Ah, damn.
Rum.
Womp,
No,
womp.
but thank you. No, but so I like to tie my character in some way to me, and I think everybody should try to do this.
Yeah.
Because if
Have
you
a
feel a
connection
connection to your character, then you are way more likely to like this character and
continue.
want to be
Yeah.
this character. Yeah,
And
and
I think
it doesn't always have to be a good thing about yourself. It can also be a flaw, but just something that makes it
something
fun.
that connects it
I
to
mean,
you, and
I
you don't
love-
have to be totally different
Yeah.
for yourself. Yeah.
No, exactly. But I love music. Is one of the things I've loved my entire life. So I made a bard, obviously. But how does this bard look? Well, this bard has purple hair. That's kind of weird. Well, my favorite color in the world is purple. So I just pick things that I liked when I'm building the character, and that then also reflects in how I would roleplay and present this character. I, well, like FaZe here said, very unsuccessful with my roles when I tried to flirt. What I like to do...
there seems to be a theme here that we were both unsuccessful in FaZe's games. Maybe this is a common.
Maybe he's the
yeah, maybe he's the
bad guy.
problem.
I'm not rolling
Yeah,
for you
he's-
guys. I'm sorry.
No,
you
but
can't
you're
pin this on me.
She in the dies.
But
Yeah, so just like I like to be goofy, and we have in this campaign that he's referring to, we have a penguin guy and my guy's a fish guy. So we get into like this little rivalry,
Fishy debates.
around, and and so I try to bring some of that from myself, but it could be anything, like just whatever trait that you have. You could be good at jumping rope, running, throwing balls, fishing, playing chess. I mean, dancing, whatever it is. Art.
Try and bring that link back into your character. Yeah. I get that. That's really good advice. I like that.
Might have, and you might have a favorite color. Like I said, my hair for my character is purple because I love purple, and usually my characters have blue eyes because I have blue eyes. It could be that you have
something very subtle like that,
scar or a freckles, or like a jewelry that you really love, like an earring, or like a necklace that you have, or like a hair, like a pin in your hair that you usually like, or a backpack that you have, like just anything that you really like in the real world. You can just bring some little detail to your character, and all of a sudden you're gonna feel more connected to your character. It's a tiny
I really like
tip,
that,
but it's going to help you a lot.
That's no, Dwayne. No.
And then obviously,
yeah.
I was going to say, like, and also when you got you can take those initial ideas and link them into like your backgrounds that you can choose, like sailor or entertainer, and just use those personality traits and say, okay, well, I really like chess, and I grew up on a boat. I was a sailor, and it was terrible playing chess because the boat was always moving around. But now that I'm on dry land, just really lean into sort of thing like that.
Yes,
or
you're already thinking, you're already speculating, thinking, coming up with different things. And
I mean, you've got options there. I mean, you can go that route. You could go the route to say, oh, I was so good at playing chess on board a ship. But now that I'm on dry land, the pieces don't move around anymore, and I don't know how to play.
Yeah,
You know,
shit's moving around for me.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's a whole bunch of different kind of things that you can go with it. So you know, and that's where my vibe comes in. So I definitely hear Lugo's point of view. You know, you can take that stance. I go the other way. I go, what would be the stupid thing of that? What would be the stupid consequence
But
of
absolutely, but you don't have to, like, one does not have to cancel the other. You can have both.
No, yeah, of course. You could be great at chess, but only when you're on a ship.
Yeah, exactly. But so I just think it's a really easy tip. That's
Yeah.
usually what I do. Like, I pick one detail that is visual, and then I take one trait
I like that.
that the character, and then
Hmm.
if I already have a thought out story, I incorporate those themes, and if I don't, I work with those themes and then come up with a story. But I always have something to fall back on, because sometimes you don't know where you're going with a character, and you're like, shit, I have a campaign coming up soon or whatever, and you're like, it doesn't feel fleshed out. Well, try one of these tips, and I'm sure you're gonna just start thinking. Even if you don't use whatever you thought about, it's gonna get you thinking and get your mind running.
Now, a big
great
question.
tip.
A big question is, how much detail should you include in a backstory? Now, I think personally, for me, especially from a DM point of view, if you want to get role playing, you DM, you talk to your DM and say, look, I've got these points or 3 to 5 key events to define my character. This is my backstory. These are the 3 points. Give your DM a chance to really get involved with your character. Say to him, look, I really want to role play, and if you give him some good points from your past, any good DM worth their salt will be able to put that in. And by giving a DM a good, concise backstory, not too long, not too crazy, you give them the opportunity to
no masters. You don't need 90 pages.
but you give them an opportunity to pull you into your own personal story within the campaign, and by doing that, it gives you a real chance to get some one-on-one time with the DM, where it's just you and them spitballing off each other and really getting involved in your character. And I think that's one of the best parts of creating your backstory. That I think, talking about that, how do you feel like? What do you feel like creating a dynamic backstory? How would you go about creating a dynamic backstory? How much detail do you guys go into? Go for it, Nightbeard.
Yeah.
No,
Like I said,
I see that cat in the background.
I started, like I said, I started with a pretty basic concept of the Nightbeard clan, and essentially building out these characters that are related, influenced, like Lugo said, by some people that I might have met along the way, etc., etc. And then like, I don't know. I don't think a too detailed backstory is necessary. I think a few key plot points, and playing to those plot points as what we would do as DMs, right? I mean, feed off information and kind of like, okay, cool. So as a player, you've got the opportunity of being a mini DM in your background story, which is great. But yeah, I love it. I think I love a detailed backstory. I read through, if you play my games and you send me a 4-page backstory, I will read through it. I promise you, I'm going to read through it.
Oh yeah.
And I like it. It gives me ideas for next campaigns, because there might be a flashback sequence coming where you suddenly are caught in a dream sequence of fighting the beholder that killed your dad. I don't know, whatever. So we'll figure something out. You know, maybe like in your case, Phase, like you suddenly go back in time and you are in this fight with your son again as your character, and what do you do? So it's an opportunity to explore additional things from the DM side. That's why I like a detailed backstory on my characters. But that said, it's not for everybody, and that's also fine.
Luga, anything to add to that? Because we do need to go on to the common newbie mistakes.
That was great. I agree. Not too long, but not too short. Like minimum half a page, just so you can establish some groundwork for the DM to work with.
Yeah,
and also for you to get a sense of what this character is and what they're gonna do.
put in concise points of the big things, and then give them an overview.
You can have how many paragraphs you have, but there's 3 that are really important, and that's where do you come from? Like, what is your beginning? It could go all the way to when you were a child, or it could be a teenage event or an adult event. But it's just, where do you feel like
fit into the world?
This is you, and where are you from? Because you're always from somewhere. Then some event happened. What happened? How did it happen? Who were there? And then the last one is,
what are your goals?
These things, what are your goals now? Where are you now? And where are you headed?
Yeah.
So
yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So like those 3 points, it doesn't have to be super long. It doesn't have to be, but at least half a page. So there's something to work with. And then you can fill in the gaps and expand on it. But if you have those 3 points, then you're gonna have something fun, at least, I think.
I'd add to that. I'd say add not only your strengths but your weaknesses as well. So what is a flaw? Yeah. So what's a flaw? What's something that's maybe a quirk? Something that's weird, like freaking Phaser's old guy who just loves biscuits, and
he loved a bourbon. I mean, sponsor me bourbon.
And I mean, it's doesn't have any impact on the game, but it's a hell of a fun role-playing thing to do. So that's his like little weird thing. So I really like that kind of thing. So use your strengths and your weaknesses, as well as give yourself something weird. Give yourself a little quirk.
Now,
and take it from there.
Right, so let's move on to the common missteps of new players, what they make, and let's have a look and see if we can offer any advice on how to improve them. So, I mean, I'm going to start off with new players, and you'll narrate the story, and you will get them to that first area, and then you'll say over to you. And 9 times out of 10, new players will just not say anything. No one will say anything, and as a DM, you've got to sit there and you've got to think, well, how do I've got to encourage this. Now, I need to say to my players, there's no wrong answers. Remind my players that D&D is about creativity, and there's rarely a single right choice. You just got to sometimes just jump in there. If you find this overturned cart with arrows sticking out of the horses, go investigate it. Go have a look, because it's there to be looked at. It's there to be. If you just turn around and go home, then that's the game over. Most DMs are going to understand that. If you are a new player, just jump in, get involved in, and you know what? 9 times out of 10, whatever you say, if it's as long as it's funny, it's going to get a good reaction out of the DM anyway. So all I can say is there is no wrong thing to say. Go on.
I have one thing to add. If you're a DM and you have a new player, if you feel that they are being quiet and they are being a little shy, or they're not talking, point them out. Like,
my NPCs will go straight to them.
Yeah, no, but it'd be like, let's say Nightbird, you're a new player. I'm gonna say, after a while, like, Nightbird, can you make a perception check and not let anybody else roll, just you?
Yeah, just
and then I'm gonna
isolate
give you some information that the group doesn't have, so
you
feel that you need to tell the group, and then all of a sudden you're involved.
And don't be shy.
Nightbeard, so Nightbeard, you see this arrow sticking out the horses, but you notice that one of the saddlebags is pierced and there's a glistening gold coin within it, or you see a strange eerie glow coming from, and that kind of gets them involved, right? I mean, that's immediately. I like that. I love that idea. That's fantastic.
And also some people are the stars of this show. You're always going to get those players. the barbarians can be like, I rush in.
Yeah.
And then
don't they
shy
just?
player's gonna be like, oh, I don't want to interrupt him, or like he's doing
Well,
his thing.
I feel
You can just say to that player that isn't rushing, the new player, you can say, you notice that the barbarian isn't paying attention, and behind or to the side of him there is a wolf crawling up, or there is a trap that he's missing.
Without delving
can
too
you
much.
roll to see if you can tell him in time or anything? Like then he or she is immediately involved in a situation, and they have to act. And if
Without
they don't
delving
act,
too much into,
somebody could
because
get in
obviously,
trouble.
this is this is more tailored towards the DM side of getting people involved. So, I mean, we'll be covering that in next season as well.
True, but
but yeah, it's a good
encourages people to get into role playing. But yeah,
it's and as I said, if you do have a boisterous team of people, just say, just interject, say, I don't want to do that, or I want to do this. Just put your voice out there. And I know sometimes if you're starting out and things like that, it is very difficult to do that. But we're all here to have fun. We're all here to have equal opportunity. And I think in any DM session 0, they will say that, they want you to have equal time role playing and getting your character involved. So if you ever feel that you're being overshadowed, you just speak to your DM and say, look, I don't feel like I'm getting much of a chance to get involved here. And most DMs will tailor their game, or say, or speak to those involved and say, look, this is could you allow other people to get more involved? But touch wood, I have not had this issue in any of my games. I feel like a lot of people do.
You didn't have this issue of a barbarian just running in everywhere.
Do you know what? I think by the end of it, they just enjoyed watching you suffer, because you did get smacked around a bit for it, and that was your character. Your character was very bold. She was very headstrong. So that was cool. How can players balance roleplay and the mechanics of the game? I'm going to ask this one to you, Luger.
Sure. As a new player, I would say forget about your character sheet, forget about the mechanics, and ask the DM, hey, can I do this? Hey, can I do that? Get into the role playing. Forget that it's a game of statistics and be like, oh, I've got a +3 in this. I really need to do this. No, improvise and think about the situation that is at hand. What would you do, or what would your character do? Try to imagine that it's really happening. You wouldn't be like, well, I am really good at this, I'm gonna do this now. No, you're gonna react and be like, somebody's falling, I'm just gonna throw myself and see if I can catch it. You're not gonna be like, well, I am not very dexterous, so can I roll something else? No, you're just gonna act. So don't look at the character sheet too much, and just like try
just do
to
it.
And if you are unsure, ask.
Your
That's
DM will
why
support
there's
you.
a DM.
And if any DMs are out there like myself and any new people in my game, I'm just thrilled to be getting someone else invested in this world, in this hobby, because it is great. It is fun. But next question I'm going to ask to you, Mr. Nightbeard. What would you say are the pitfalls of the main character syndrome?
Oh wow, I think you lose out so much options of exploring the world that the DM has created for you. I think that as a DM, I like to hide little Easter eggs in places. I like to put some things there that you need to maybe do one or two things a little bit extra, a little bit different to get. And you've got main character syndrome. You've got players that like to overwhelm, tell players what to do, etc., etc. as well. A lot of metagaming in some instances. But I think as I'm not mentioning names. But I think the one of the pitfalls there is definitely if you try to run the game for yourself as if you are playing Baldur's Gate, you're not playing Baldur's Gate. This is the big thing. You are not the main character. you are a character.
You are a vessel.
And
Yeah. Hmm.
you are one of the characters, and I think that it might take a death or two of a player character for new players to realize that, and after that, you start to experience it a little bit more.
Hmm.
And I think in terms of the main character syndrome, one big thing I do want to add there is that first character death. I think
Is humbling.
that very first character death is something that every player needs to experience within the first few games that they play.
Hmm.
What?
Yes,
What?
Oh, yeah, if you-
yes.
Insane take.
I love
Okay.
it. I love it.
He's
The reason I
S&M, man. Like, he just kills all of his characters.
so I don't kill. No, I don't think I've ever had a permadeath in my games beside my own character that I had a DM player character. But I really think that is necessary because it kind of takes all this energy and this investment that you've put into this main character that yes, this is going to be my max character, and suddenly you get hit by a rust monster, your armor dissolves and you're dead, and you're like, wait, what now? And it's like, okay, cool, you can roll a new character, we'll introduce them, take 10 minutes, and yeah, bring in a new character. So yeah. Now I see the character. The people on Twitch
savage.
are like, they're like,
savage.
"Oh, my characters! You're gonna kill off my characters."
So
we'll see.
D&D, I mean, D&D is a collaborative game, and as a player playing, if you're role playing a very strong-willed character, do bear in mind that hogging the spotlight does make it less fun for others, and they've got their own stories that they want to invest in. Try and share your moments with the fellow players. Don't just go off on a tangent on your own. Try and share your story with your fellow players. React to their stories, not just your own, because I tell you, it will help. I know it's easy to play that lone ranger, that lone soul that hates everyone and hates it, but realistically, you're not going to get the great story that you would have by getting involved with your other players. Luger, how? This is a good one for you. How can the players avoid getting overwhelmed by rules?
Don't care about the rules.
Yeah, let the DM worry about them.
Honestly, don't, like I said earlier, don't care about a character sheet. Don't care about rules. If you're a new player, you're not gonna know all the rules. Even if you played for a while, you're not gonna know everything because there is so much to know.
There is so much to know.
So just get inside your own your own fantasy in your head and think about that instead of what is in your character sheet or what is on a piece of paper, and just imagine a way. Just, oh, it'd be really cool if I did this, and ask the DM, hey, can I do that? And they're gonna make a roll if they want to, or they're gonna be like, no, you can't really do this in this instance, but you can try this instead, or they're gonna go about it in a different way. But they're, like you said, there's no wrong answers. It's better to ask one time too much if I can do something than to just say nothing at all. And I think with time and trying things and that kind of like mindset, you will naturally just learn as you go. You will learn the rules and pick up things. But
as the more you play,
in the beginning, I don't think you should feel inhibited by a character sheet or whatever all these fucking numbers mean, because first time you look at a character sheet, like +1, -1, +3, 5,
it's very
4, 3,
overwhelming.
what is all these names? Proficiency bonus. What is this? What is everything? It's just a
Why
mess.
do I add a plus? Why do you add a +3 here, not a +4? And why do you double that
like,
dice? And
strength, dexterity, and there's
too much.
18 different skills. Like, what do all do? It's overwhelming. Just be like, hey, I am a fisherman. I see that there's a pond over there. Can I see if there's any living fish? Go ahead. Don't care if your animal handling is -9. Like, not realistic, but who cares what your stat is on your character sheet? If you're interested in something or want to explore something, try to do it. It could mean that you fail, but that could be a fun thing as well. Like,
yeah, failure is part of the game. Definitely.
Yeah, if you roll poorly, you might slip and fall into the water. Well, that might cause some monster to appear and you can have a fun fight. Or you could fall into the pond and wait, there's something at the bottom here. What is this? Oh,
Right.
this is a gem? Or what is this? And all of a sudden you've got a plot hook. Like, failure or not succeeding doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Exactly
So
that.
don't be afraid to fail or
What's
you
that?
know, just go.
There's
Go have fun.
a book called Failing to Success or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
I think so basically what I think to summarize that is basically start simple, just focus on your class abilities, learn as you go. Also, if you need to, use cheat sheets or character summaries to keep track of your key abilities. Now, Mr. Nightbeard,
absolutely,
why is it important?
No pressure.
Oh, you've disappeared off my camera. Why is it important to communicate with the DM and the party?
I don't know. I'm off your camera.
It's right. It's right. What are you doing? I know it's nearly Valentine's Day, but
sorry, it's my cat. It's my cat. I'm there. I don't know where what happened to your things. It's maybe Valentine's Day on your side. So what's the question?
So
why? God damn it!
Why
we're off the rails?
I mean, so why is it? Yeah, we'll talk about railroading campaigns in the DM season 2. Why is it important to communicate with the DM and the party as a player and as a person? I guess.
Look, I think first up is you're a player in the game. The DM is also a player in the game, and I think that that I think is something that a lot of people, and especially new players, forget. When I started out DMing, I was very kind of nervous about it. Right, I was super worried about running a game, and I think. FaZe, you were the one that told me, look, you playing in the game, you're helping others to play in the game, and that for me is why it's important, because if you're not happy as a player, it's going to affect me as a player, and it's going to affect other players, and then nobody's having fun anymore. And it becomes important to also tell each other how you're feeling. So, hey, Nutbeard, I really don't want you to kill off my character. And I'll go, well, it's not me, it's the dice. And you go, well, actually, what you did there was a bit unfair because, my AC was high or whatever the case is. And I learn from you and I go, yeah, too bad. But, we'll make it right in the next game, or sorry about it, I'll be better, and it's part of learning. It's part of playing.
Pulling stuff up in the middle of the game is not necessarily the best way to go about it. I think a lot of problems, as you've touched on there, from D&D come from misunderstandings, and the worst thing you could do as a player is to argue with your DM there in the game. Whereas you can take them aside at the end of the game, because obviously you don't want to disrupt the game. You say, look, at the end of the game, take your DM to the side and say, I don't feel like that went particularly the way that I expected it to go. Can you just explain why that happened? Or, my expectations were this and you gave me that. 9 times out of 10, I think a good DM will have a good chat with you about it and explain to you and say, well, look, this wouldn't work, but if you had done this, that would have been a different outcome. So always, never question or argue with your DM
Are you sure
during a game.
You want to do this line from the DM?
Yeah, and you would usually get that, like, if you're doing something that's not right, are you sure you want to do this? And 9 times out of 10, that's not the right move to do. But saying that, right, Luger. What are the easy ways? How do you get into character? Give us a bit of advice. How do you get into
I pretend that I am
mind?
In a big movie. I know it's an Oscar-winning movie already. So
not a Marvel film then.
So I'm gonna do like Christian Bale. I'm gonna 6 months before shooting. I'm gonna get into
Starve
character,
yourself.
I'm gonna,
Did you see the machinist?
starve myself. Yeah, so I'm playing a character that is from a horrible background. He hasn't been fed in years. He's pale and weak, and he's just trying to find a way to come back to life. So yeah.
So you're a method actor. You literally like you'll go out. You'll kill a few people with some axes, hunt some boar. That sort of thing.
If you look into my fridge, you're gonna be like, "Oh God, this man, he needs help. There's nothing to eat." No, but I think
that took a dark path, didn't it?
Do we need to send you something?
tired.
Do you have a food? Do you have a food delivery service there? Do you have it like a DoorDash or something?
I think he's finally plugging something.
Do we need to send you a can of tuna and some pasta?
Yeah, Luger's lunch drive.
Yeah. Well,
we'll start a GoFundMe.
You could have a character that's really interested in foods and wanting to try new foods, and that could be an incentive to go and explore things. Like if you go into a town, the first thing they're gonna be like, "Where's the food market?" So a lot of people do that in real life. Lots of people love food and whatnot, and you can have a chef character or whatnot. But I work with whatever the story is for my character. And that's also why I said that I like to bring something from myself into the character. So it's way easier for me to feel a connection and then to pretend to be that, whatever it is that I'm pretending to be.
Okay, nice. I'm going to do something a little bit.
I just don't. One last thing. I just don't feel any pressure. Like, let go of pressure. That's what's going to hold you back. Don't feel pressured to do anything or say anything. Just try to have fun. Just go with it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to try something new out here.
Ooh. Do we need to be scared?
I think so.
We should always be scared. It's face.
Do we need to watch the stream for
this? We're gonna invite a guest speaker in.
Oh,
so Kopi, if you've been given the podcaster role, if you want to join the podcast voice chat, I'm going to ask you a question next. So yeah, jump in when you're ready.
Holy!
We're going off script. Kopi, get in.
He didn't even tell us about this.
No, and I'm the host. Do what I want.
Now I've got to behave myself.
Kopi.
Oh yeah, he comes.
Hello. So I'm shocked to do these guys with this. I thought we'd get you as a guest speaker, as someone that does enjoy role playing very often in games. So I'm going to ask you a question here. How would you say, as a player, how would you say, or what advice would you offer to role play if you feel awkward or shy?
I would say just, if you're a little nervous about it, just go with what you're comfortable with. Like, you don't have to be doing like the whole Matt Mercer thing with the critical role style of, I'm an immediate actor. Just, if you're gonna be taking it easy, just, you don't immediately have to be a professional at it.
So, I mean, what would you say was when did you first start getting to role play? How did you get your head into it?
I
was it something that you was always quite into?
I started with a IRL game where I was playing a bit more of a theater of the mind game. I was in high school. I was a creative writing guy. I've always been sort of good at that. So
yeah, I think with things like, especially with theater of the mind, I think it does encourage role play as well.
Yeah, so I've always been a little bit better at that. It's the improvising part you have to get used to.
No, I agree. So I like what Kobe said. It's like start small. You're not going to be a top end actor. Describe your actions rather than speaking in character.
How rude!
Uh,
You don't know my
Yes,
capabilities.
no,
I
100%. I love that. I love that.
I would say like you don't always have to do it like when you're just walking around or something. Like I'd say if you are even doing like an ability check, you're
Hmm.
disappointed you get like a nat 20 on an ability check and you're like, oh, I wasted a nat 20 on an ability check when all I needed was a 17.
I
Use
think
it.
I
Like
think as
get
well.
a
Oh, sorry.
great thing going with that and overdo it.
On the back of that, I mean, I think what helped me first when I was role playing in my first in life game is rather than actually talk as my character, sometimes I would speak in the third person as what their character would be doing and describing their movements, their actions, how they would react to a situation. Rather than doing it from the first person, you could take a step back into the third person and describe it until you get into that that mindset of being in your character's head. Luga,
Yeah, exactly.
how can you make character decisions that that feel meaningful? So how would you bring about a character that would bring decisions into a game that would be meaningful to the progression?
That's a tricky one. It depends entirely on the campaign setting and what your goals are, obviously. Um, but there's tons of different ways to engage and sort of help drive the narrative forward.
Mm.
One thing is pay attention to what is being said, not only by the DM but by your fellow players. Um, Try to feed off of each other. I think that's super important.
Mm.
Uh, you're a team. You're playing a game together. Um,
Yeah.
So to feel like you're the one man show, I, that's not D&D.
Mm.
And if it is, then it's probably a unwritten rule that I haven't heard of. But yeah, I think feeding off of each other and listening, but also being able to speak, but taking in information. Don't be afraid to take up a pen or piece of paper and write something down whilst someone is talking. Don't feel like you're being rude, um, or whatnot. Just
Mm.
yeah,
Nice.
that was a broad question.
It was a broad question, yeah. Have you got anything to add to that, Kobe?
Well, no, not really. Like if you do find yourself like just figuring out a way you can do a certain like, thing every single time, don't be afraid to just use that as a way you react to that one thing.
Mm.
Like in your in your game, the Lost Nine, I've pretty much decided that I have the flaw with Theoden that I I'm going to use where he has a flashback of his son being taken, where he'll go into a panic whenever he gets a nat 1, and then he'll go into like a rage whenever
Mm.
he gets a nat 20.
Mm. I like that. I like that. So, Nightbeard, can you tell me a little bit about player bleed? How can you avoid it? So, obviously, player bleed being when a character's emotions can affect real life feelings. That's a real deep one for you. Slapping that on your chest.
Well, I guess. Wow. Yeah, don't give me an easy one.
No, why would
First.
I?
Why
Mine
ever?
wasn't
I mean,
easy either, but this one's rough. Yeah.
yeah. I think bleeding over real world and fantasy. It happens. It's definitely going to happen. I mean, as a DM, I'm sure you've also had situations where you get frustrated with something and stuff like that. And similarly for players, I mean, players also get frustrated and they'll get disappointed about them not landing a hit and whatever. But try to, as a DM, I try to channel that to an in-game character action, and I'll say, okay, so yeah, Kopi, you've tried now for the 7th time to hit this troll with your bow. You're not getting it right. You've snapped your bowstring or whatever, and you're going to
Broke
spend
your
the
Frostbrand
next
rapier.
turn. Fucking hell, you and my Frostbrand rapier. But I try to kind of bring it back and kind of bring the player back into the room and go, hey, look, you're actually still playing a game, and what you're doing there is maybe a little bit out of character. So that's that. I tried to do that. I haven't had many of those instances, to be honest. I think that that happens. I've had a few instances where other things have happened, but yeah, I think the player bleed is it's a difficult situation, and I think it comes down to speaking to your DM. It comes down to player maturity, and
the DM addressing these issues if they arise as well. But as knowing and playing your character right, just try not to. So you basically just want to obviously set boundaries, separate yourself from you and your character's experiences. If you decide that you want to, the DM gives you an option, and 4 of the group want to go one way, you want to go the other way. Don't then hate them for the rest of the campaign, because it's a group experience.
It's one of those things. I have a thing, and I wanted to touch on it earlier, if you'll allow me now.
Go.
To encourage teamwork, which it has happened once or twice. But if for example, as a player, you come up with something creative that encourages teamwork. So my cleric's gonna cast Sacred Flame, raise it up, and my bunny boy archer character is going to shoot an arrow through that sacred flame to hit the target. I'm going to go, fuck yeah, roll it.
Do it.
Let's do this.
Do it.
Do it at advantage, and I'll give you an extra damage on it on top of it, because that encourages that role play. It encourages the creative thinking, and it's rule of cool. So why not? So yeah, I think that player bleed, it goes the one way. But if somebody's in a really fun mood, I love that too. So it really adds to the game.
Now, finally, and I think this is one of the biggest parts of role playing, is how can players role play in combat, not just social scenes. So my one, for example, is always be ready for when you do the finishing blow on a character or creature. Your DM usually will ask you, how do you want to do this? Just have a think about how your character would take that strike, because one of the biggest parts of D&D is the fighting side. So have a think about how your character reacts in a combat scene. Think about how you'd want to finish off the big Goliath that's been absolutely slapping your party for 40 minutes. Think about how your weapon is going to take that down, and think about something. It doesn't have to be much, but just have a think about what your character is doing role playing. Luca, how can players roleplay in combat?
I feel that there's tons of things, and what many people forget is that talking is a free action in combat. Combat lasts. Each round in combat lasts for 6 seconds. Real world time. I could stab somebody and say a few words within 6 seconds.
I think you do many times.
Yeah, I do. I talk a lot. But so if you've seen any movie, if you've seen Legolas and Gimli, for instance, in Lord of the Rings, they're killing a bunch of
and they're having a little bit of
they're still
repertoire.
Yeah, they're still having a little bit of banter going, I can kill more than you, or that one doesn't count, whatever. You can just add a few words here and there. Don't be afraid to do that. I think that is really fun, and a lot of times you don't have time in the middle of combat to think of a grand strategy. You should have thought about that before. Now you're in the middle of things. You don't have time to think for 30 minutes about the next move. well, throw something out there. Hey guys, what do you think? Is this a good idea?
Yes.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But you can still interact with each other, but you don't have to be like, what do you guys think? Should we? What is this?
I'm about to
No,
cast
you don't have to do
fireball. Is
that.
everyone in a safe place?
Yeah, you could be like, guys, I'm thinking about doing this. Get out of the way. Like you're giving somebody a heads up. You're interacting with your friends, but you're still staying in character and you're doing what your character would do.
I agree.
And for finishing blows, I mean, I'm playing a bard. You know, he's a fancy guy, nice clothes. He doesn't want to get dirty. Maybe he'll have his rapier and like just trying to find some place to just.
I always make sure you get covered in claret.
Yeah, instead of getting all gory and jumping into it, he's gonna be like, "Oh, where's the eyeball?" and just like pierce the eyeball, not even look. He's just gonna be like, "Oh, hope I hit it," and like, "Oh, you're not moving, great." Ugh, nasty. Blah.
What about you, Kopi?
Anybody have a cloth?
What you say?
Yeah.
What about you, Kopi? What's your go-to role-playing combat?
I always enjoy adding some good flavor to them. I try to add it to almost everything I'm doing. It's even if it takes a couple seconds, I try to add a bit to it.
And I think what's important is when you're waiting for your go as well, just have a think about what you're going to do next go. Look at where everyone's positioned. Look at who's gone down, who you're going to aim for next. Get your character ready for its next move, because the worst thing you do is basically wait for 4 hours for someone to decide. But yes, we are running vastly out of time, so we are going to say, Nightbin, have you got any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just want to say, I am going to ask you, what is the vicious mockery? What is the insult that you are throwing?
Always throw that out, yeah.
So I want to hear it, and I mean, it's not necessary that I want to hear you do it, but I think it's a good role playing prompt. It kind of puts the player into, especially newer players. So, yeah. So what you're actually saying? Your sister's toe is
gangrene,
is, deliciously pink. Yeah, whatever the case
deliciously
is.
pink. Like, what the fuck?
I don't know, but exactly. That's like that's going to confuse the hell out of them, right? So,
shit.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know what you guys do in South Africa, man, but it's not what we do here in the UK. But guys, thank you so much for joining in tonight. We're going to finish off with a final thought from not only Luga, but we'll do one from Kopi as well, who's a guest speaker tonight. So Luga, what are your final thoughts, please?
Final thoughts? Have fun. It's a game about having fun. Pretend as much as you can. Imagine as much as you can. Go wild. Just be the hero that you've always wanted to be, and have fun.
And Kopi, thank you so much for joining us.
The easiest and the best way to get into it.
Kopi, thank you so much for joining us really quickly on the cuff. But yeah, what are your final thoughts on roleplay?
Yeah, I guess don't be too nervous about it, because even if you are new, it can make the game a bit more satisfying when you're trying to enjoy a new character.
I think you get a lot more out of it.
Just, try to connect you to the character a bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, guys. As always, please do go check out mythicguilds.com, the website. We do have a full merch store on there. You've also got the Clippy's bonus challenge as well. If you find the best clip, you'll get yourself a free bit of merch from the store, which is absolutely fantastic. Also, if you want to join the Discord, if you want to get involved in games, please come visit us at Mythic Guilds Discord server, or the Tavern. You can find it on the directory. Just type in Mythic Guilds and you will find us there. I've been Faze, your host. I want to thank you to the three guest speakers. The three hosts tonight as well. Kopi, Lugia, and Nightbeard. Say goodnight, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Thanks for having us. Thanks for joining, Kopi. That was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for the final little bit.
No, you're very welcome. Very welcome. We'll try and do something like this every week. Get someone new, get a new point of view in as well.
It was fun.
But yeah, we will see you next week, where we will be talking, doing another character deep dive as well. Thanks very much for everyone listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.